You're tuned to Retro Rewind FM, the show that brings the magic of the 80s back to life, right here on YouTube. If you love the stories behind the songs that shaped a generation, hit that subscribe button, give us a like, and let's rewind to one of the most hypnotic, haunting hits ever created. Sweet Dreams Are Made of This by Eurythmics. It was 1983. MTV was exploding. The synthesizer was taking over, and pop music was turning into pure art. But in a tiny basement studio in North London, two exhausted musicians were about to change everything. With a sound born from heartbreak, frustration, and survival. Annie Lennox and Dave Stewart weren't just a duo. They were dreamers who had been knocked down, kicked out, and nearly forgotten. Their previous band had failed, they had no money, and no label wanted them. But in that moment of despair, surrounded by cables and machines, something extraordinary happened. They turned to the only instrument they could afford, a secondhand synthesizer. Dave started programming a beat, cold and mechanical, like a heartbeat without a body. Annie began layering harmonies, haunting, robotic, and strangely human. And from that collision came a song that sounded like nothing else on earth. Sweet Dreams wasn't written in a fancy studio. It was built from emotion and wires, from pain and persistence. Annie later said, "It was a song about the ironic nature of life, how people chase dreams that sometimes destroy them. That's what made it so powerful. It wasn't happy. It wasn't sad. It was both, trapped somewhere between hope and control." When the record label finally heard it, they didn't get it. Too weird, too cold, too British. But Annie and Dave believed in it, and they pushed for its release. The rest is pop history. The song hit #1 in the US, and suddenly, two outsiders became icons of a new era. But what really burned it into our memories was the video. Surreal, stylish, unforgettable. Annie Lennox, with her cropped orange hair, pale skin, and suit, became a symbol of androgyny and artistic rebellion. She didn't smile. She didn't flirt. She commanded. In a sea of pop stars selling glamour, Annie sold truth. Behind her, a cow stood in a boardroom, a visual metaphor for absurdity and consumerism. It was bizarre, poetic, and perfectly 80s. The imagery confused some, fascinated others, and made the song impossible to forget. This wasn't just pop music. It was performance art. Eurythmics didn't just release a hit, they built a world. A world of neon dreams and synthetic emotions where power and vulnerability could exist in the same breath. The title itself, Sweet Dreams Are Made of This, sounds like comfort, but listen closer and you'll hear a warning. Annie sings, "Everybody's looking for something." That line became universal. It's about ambition, lust, greed, love. Every human desire rolled into one hypnotic mantra. It was the 80s in a nutshell. Beautiful, mechanical, and endlessly searching. Behind the scenes, Dave Stewart was experimenting with early drum machines and analog synths like the Oberheim OBX. Every sound you hear, that pulsing bass line, that icy pad, that crisp snare, was handmade, sequenced note by note. There were no samples, no presets, no shortcuts. Just raw creativity and late nights filled with cigarette smoke and electricity. Sweet Dreams became an anthem not just for Eurythmics, but for an entire generation discovering what technology could do for emotion. It bridged the gap between human feeling and machine rhythm, and it made electronic music cool. Over the years, the song has been covered, remixed, and sampled by artists across every genre. But no version captures that original tension, that strange mix of desire and detachment, warmth and ice. Only Annie's voice could sound both robotic and heartbreakingly human at the same time. For decades later, it still feels fresh. Play it today, and it doesn't sound retro, it sounds eternal. That's because Sweet Dreams isn't just a song. It's a statement. It's about survival. It's about control. It's about finding beauty in the coldness of the world. You've been listening to Retro Rewind FM, where every beat tells a story. If this trip back to the 80s stirred your soul, make sure to subscribe, drop a like, and tell us in the comments which song you want to rewind next. Until next time, keep your synths warm, your lights dim, and your dreams electric.